Some photographs have a way of revealing secrets that most of us would miss at first glance, even amid images of memorable times. These unaltered photos have stood the test of time and provide details that pique interest and pose queries. Unaltered by editing tools, these images capture unprocessed moments of the past, from surprising facial expressions to momentous coincidences. What startling realities are concealed in plain view, then? Let's examine these fascinating images in more detail, showcasing the distinct beauty of each period and presenting a novel interpretation of the situations they captured. Come along as we examine the layers buried in these classic photos. Stewardesses wore early 1970s fashion. Coffee, tea, or me? When the memoir was published in 1967, it caused a stir because it revealed the secret double lives of two real-life stewardesses. Donald Bain's book stated flight attendants had wild and sexy lives. 2 years after the books were published, he had to admit that he made up most of the stories because the stewardesses he had connected had no intriguing or scandalous experiences. The stewardesses' high-cut gowns and colorful headbands made them fantasies and objects of lust in a free love era, making the book popular. But these hard-working women are often exploited and mistreated. Though cute in uniforms, they're miserable. Caroline Kennedy strolled with her father and a Raggedy Ann doll, 1960. John F. Kennedy was a father of two before becoming president. This sweet photo was taken 2.5 weeks before JFK defeated Richard Nixon for the presidency. Despite his busy campaign schedule, the presidential candidate's father-daughter walk was routine. The Kennedys' youngest child was born as the election approached. This photo was shot on November 25, 1960, when JFK became a parent again and JF Kennedy began his life. He is a fantastic dad. Who wouldn't want to be his first daughter? Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Bob Dylan hanging out, 1972. Imagine Mick Jagger's 29th birthday in 1972 in New York City. What else could Mick do but dress as a lion tamer while Keith Richards wore a stripy suit jacket and celebrate? Fashion was not as insane as it seemed in the early 1970s. Naturally, Bob Dylan, in a lumberjack costume, joined them. It doesn't matter because Bob Dylan can wear anything. This looks like a great party any Rolling Stone fan would love. The cool James Dean needed ice to cool off, 1950s. Despite his brief Hollywood career, James Dean was one of the most incredible performers of the 1950s. Even cool people need ice for meals and drinks, and Dean was no exception. He's been visiting since the 1956 film Giant was shot in Marfa, West Texas Ice Company. The 1955 death of James Dean prevented him from seeing his final film. James Dean collided with another car on Route 466 West in Cholame, California on September 30, 1955. The Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital received him too late, and the actor died. Despite only starring in Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, Dean was one of the best actors of his time, and his legacy will live on. Crossing Abbey Road with the Beatles. The Beatles released Abbey Road, their final and most famous album, on September 26, 1969. Before this, they had to take their Abbey Road photo shoot, and here's one of their candid shots as they cross. While officers restricted Legend's traffic outside EMI Studios, the band gathered. Ian McMillan, their photographer, chose his fifth shot as the album's cover since it's the only one where the icons moved in unison. Jungle Pam Hardy, 1970s. Jim Lieberman, nicknamed Jungle Jim, was a drag racer in the 1970s who won many races. His stunning driving and colorful personality made him famous. It's Jungle Pam, not this as shown. Jim's sidekick Hardy donned tight, provocative clothing that drew male viewers. Jim's backup girl guided him to his Chevy Vega during races. Pam worked with Jim from 1973 until his 1977 death. Pam's career ended when Jim was murdered in an off-track automobile accident, but she remains one of drag racing's most famous backup females. The Ten Commandments. This image was featured in the 1956 biblical film The Ten Commandments. ABC showed this film multiple times on every holiday, notably Easter. This Cecil B. DeMille film was his final and most successful. The Ten Commandments retold Moses and the Israelites suffering in Egypt. The photo above shows Anne Baxter. She played Ramesses II's queen, Nefertiti. All of her dresses were beautiful because this film was big. Not everything was historically and biblically accurate. National Lampoon's Vacation, 1983 shot. National Lampoon's Vacation might be the 1980s most quotable film due to its fantastic, memorable dialogue. Instead of only laughs, this movie depicted the narrative of a modern married guy with a family and his own goals and frustrations. Clark W. Griswold, played by Chevy Chase, wanted to do something nice for his family. He organized a family road trip from Chicago to Wally World in California. However, disaster struck before the Griswold family left on their holiday. Clark was honest and tried to offer his family a fun and memorable trip, but everything that went wrong made him anxious. Pink Floyd concert stage shot in San Diego, 1970. Pink Floyd's 1973 album, Dark Side of the Moon, launched their career. Wish You Were Here, Animals, The Wall, and The Final Cut topped global charts, and record sales skyrocketed. With extended instrumentals and sound experimentation, Pink Floyd's music before Dark Side of the Moon was more difficult. Try A Saucerful of Secrets, Uma Guma, or Atom Heart Mother if you like 20-minute multi-part songs. Rick Wright, David Gilmour, and Roger Waters perform Atom Heart Mother songs in this photo. Returning to Johnny Carson Tonight. Everyone knows Johnny Carson was one of The Tonight Show's longest-running hosts. He spent over 30 years on the show and had one of the greatest conversations with Robin Hilton before retiring in 1974. Hilton was an American actress and model you may not remember. She gained fame for her small role in the Western satire Blazing Saddles, but she only got on The Tonight Show after 1974 rumors about a blonde bombshell were rumored. MGM's legendary roar. Leo the Lion was photographed behind the scenes while filming the MGM Roar. This movie studio worked hard to cast a genuine lion for their opening logo and credit. However, their efforts paid off and impressed the crowd. White Shadows in the South Seas, MGM's 1928 talking movie, had its first logo filmed here. To record this roar in high definition, they used the latest equipment. Leo's trainer, Mel Kuntz, was on set to ensure everything went well. Good news, everything went fine. Tom Hanks and Tawny Kitaen during Bachelor Party, 1984, filming. Tom Hanks played a groom who throws a hedonistic bachelor party in Bachelor Party, 1984. Tom Hanks' acting skills made him a rising star after the movie was a hit. As most people know, Hanks is one of the most successful and sought-after male performers today. Tawny Kitaen, his co-star, never made another hit film, but became a household name. She was among the first ladies to be called a video vixen after appearing in Whitesnake music videos while dating lead singer David Coverdale. Tawny may not have succeeded, but she seemed happy. Jackson's siblings, Randy, Janet, and Michael, are at home, 1972. The Jacksons were one of the most famous music families for decades. Janet and Michael went solo after starting their careers in the Jackson 5. When this photo was taken, Randy, Janet, and Michael were the youngest of the 10 Jackson children. Even though Michael was 14 and the youngest of the Jackson 5, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, he was the only one launching a solo career. Randy, 11, occasionally played percussion with the Jackson 5, even though he wasn't a member. Janet was just 6 and unsuccessful, but she would become a famous actress in the 1970s and 1980s. Christopher Walken entertains neighbors at his Bayside, Queens home, 1955. Pulp Fiction, The Deer Hunter, King of New York, and A View to a Kill star Christopher Walken, who may have played your childhood nightmares. For decades before his first movie, he entertained his friends and neighbors, possibly causing them nightmares and a fear of clowns. Here, 12-year-old Christopher was already hooked on entertainment. This charming little kid would sing and dance in New York's nightclubs and cabarets a few years later. Later in his career, he got movie roles but still had great dance talents, which he proudly showed off. Dick Cavett interviewed Raquel Welch, 1972. According to Playboy, Raquel Welch was the 1970s most desired woman of the decade and one of the sexiest female celebrities. Dick Cavett, the antithesis, hosted a late-night discussion show for thinkers. These two icons met in 1972 and talked. It felt like a clash of two worlds, but there was something for everyone. Since the Dick Cavett Show was distinct from other talk shows like Johnny Carson's Tonight Show and concentrated on serious themes rather than humor, Cavett was a great host who could always engage his guests in intellectual debate. Their careers were at their peak when they met. Beautiful Barbara Boucher, 1967. Hollywood never knew how to use lovely German-American actress Barbara Boucher. Despite playing roles typically allocated to gorgeous girls like herself, she had limited film roles. She played Miss Moneypenny in Casino Royale, 1967, and Ursula in Sweet Charity, 1968. She appeared in a few minor TV shows but never had a memorable role. After her career stagnated in the U.S., she moved to Italy to start over. Hollywood, you lost a good actress by letting Barbara go. Fits perfectly. Rolling Stone published stories from single Los Angeles gym-goers in the 1970s. They found Jamie Lee Curtis Smith practicing her routines in her tight workout suit. All of these were for James Bridges' 1985 picture, Perfect. They decided that health and fitness clubs, besides bars, were good places for singles to socialize. Beautiful 1960s girl Jeannie was a 2,000-year-old Jeannie. Barbara Eden played 2,000-year-old Jeannie in the 1960s sitcom I Dream of Jeannie. Her midriff revealing dress was unheard of at the time, but Barbara became a sex symbol after the show's 1965 premiere. Due to strict wardrobe rules, Eden could show off her ribcage and cleavage, but not her navel. The show's producers tried to hide Barbara's legs and tummy to reduce her sex appeal. Loretta Lynn and her golden brown acoustic guitar and palomino. Loretta Lynn is one of the most successful female country music artists ever, with 24 #1 singles and 11 #1 albums. The 1970s Academy of Country Music named her Artist of the Decade. Lynn's defiant tunes should be feminist anthems. In Rated X and The Pill, she sang about female empowerment and the double standards we see in birth control for men and women. In You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man and Fist City, she addressed women who steal men from other women. Fully dressed and secure. Long flights require entertainment, but this flight started awkwardly. In January 1959, Brigitte Lindman inspects a showgirl's costume while stewardesses' uniforms will likely be shortened. Before this unexpected event, Lindman appears on the 1958 cover of Life magazine. Her passion was recognized when she competed and fought. Spielberg relaxing in Jaws' mouth, 1975. Jaws was the most popular movie of 1975 and the first to earn $100 million at the box office. Though Steven Spielberg appears relaxed in this photo, the production team had their hands full and ran into many issues, including the animated shark. 1957 Life magazine photo of young Betty White. Betty White, the comedy queen, has been on TV for 70 years. In 1983, she hosted her game show, Just. Maureen McCormick acting furious on The Brady Bunch 1972 set. In the early 1970s, Maureen McCormick and her miniskirts made every teenage boy drool while watching her play Marcia Brady on the popular after-school special, The Brady Bunch. This photo was taken while filming the episode Greg's Triangle, where Marcia's brother Greg was supposed to choose the next head cheerleader. Teenage Kurt Cobain, 1986. In this pre-Nirvana photo, Kurt Cobain is a happy, sweet kid, not a grunge poet or a victim of rock and roll. He will soon team up with future Nirvana bandmates Chris Novoselic and Aaron Burkhardt. In his youth, he had his share of problems, from his parents' divorce to school bullies, vandalism, and other antisocial behavior. Ferris Bueller's Day Off stars Pose, 1986. Where do three teenagers from the Chicago area in the 80s go when they decide to skip school one sunny day? The Art Institute of Chicago. Yes, the scene from the hit movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off is improbable, but it was pretty entertaining to watch. These adorable teenagers in the photo are Cameron Fry, Alan Ruck, Salome Peterson, Mia Sara, and Ferris himself, Matthew Broderick. The museum is just one of many adventures the teens have all around Chicago. Besides the museum, they visit the Mercantile Exchange, Sears Tower, and Wrigley Field. Also, what is happening with the parade and all the dancers backing Ferris on Dankeschön and Twist and Shout? It appears that is the parade that celebrates German-American culture, the Von Steuben Day Parade, even though it takes place in late September, which does not match with the setting of the film, which is most likely to be taking place in the spring. The principal, Rooney, states that Ferris is trying to get through the semester and graduate because he has already been absent 9 times. Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong, 1969. Richard Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong are two stoners who became famous. Their first comedy album, Cheech and Chong, 1971, introduced self-parody and pot-infused humor to mainstream audiences. It reached number 28 on the Billboard album chart. Their following 2 albums, Big Bamboo, 1972, and Los Cochinos, 1973, reached number 2 and won a Grammy. Stars of Hollywood. The 1951 blockbuster film A Streetcar Named Desire starred Marlon Brando and Vivien Leigh, who became famous for their iconic Stella scene. Brando had only appeared in 2 movies before this film, but his exceptional role made him famous. The Depressing Addams Family, 1964. The Addams Family, Gomez the father, his wife Morticia, Lurch, Grandmama, Uncle Fester, Thing, Cousin It, and Wednesday and Pugsley, were created before the show premiered in 1964. A freelance cartoonist's drawing inspired the idea of a monsterish family. Farrah Fawcett and Burt Reynolds on the set of The Cannonball Run, 1981. The 1981 road racing comedy The Cannonball Run starred Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Jackie Chan, Adrienne Barbeau, Harry Bradshaw, Mel Tillis, and Roger Moore, who played 007. Still, they were overshadowed by the stunningly beautiful Farrah Fawcett and the handsome Burt Reynolds. Margaret Hamilton in Maxwell House Coffee ad. Margaret Hamilton is best known for her role as the Wicked Witch of the West in the beloved film The Wizard of Oz. However, those who grew up during the groovy era may recall her from the 1970s coffee ads as Cora. Rink rolling. Roller skates were one of the most popular gears in the 1970s. Kids and kids at heart learned how to do them, and it became a trend. It became a new form of entertainment for many. This photo shows how much teens loved them, and this girl was happy to teach them how to have fun with them. Posing aboard a World War II plane. The Marine Aerial Refueler Transport Squadron 234 was based in Oahu, Hawaii, at the United States Marine Corps Air Station in 1942. After a year, it was renamed Marine Torpedo Bow. Bill Murray, a 1968 high school graduate. After graduating from Loyola Academy in Wilmette in 1968, Bill Murray studied pre-med at Regis University in Denver, Colorado. He dropped out and returned to Chicago, where he joined Second City with his brother Brian Doyle Murray and his other brothers Joel and John. Rocky Horror's Dr. Frank N. Furter with Columbia and Magenta, 1975. There are a lot of different cult films, but none like the famous Rocky Horror Picture Show. In this movie, Tim Curry, center, played a character by the name of Frank N. Furter, a self-described sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. This movie is a film version of the hit stage production, The Rocky Horror Show, a gender-bending musical that went almost unnoticed when it was first released in 1975. It might not have been completely forgotten if it hadn't been for an executive at 20th Century Fox who noticed the new trend of midnight movies. He arranged for the movie to be shown at theaters to make money from the midnight crowd. Well, it was the right decision, as the audience would come back week after week to see the film, often in costume, singing along and shouting retorts to the screen. With its unique and quirky appeal, which has kept it in the theaters to this day, the movie is the longest-running theatrical release of all time. Janis Joplin-Tom Jones duet, 1969. In 1969, Janis Joplin and Tom Jones performed a duet on Tom Jones's show, This Is Tom Jones. Other artists like Moody Blues, Joe Cocker, Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young were considered too hip to perform duets. Always Groovy Joan Jett, 1977. 1977. The Runaways and Joan Jett were famous worldwide, except in the U.S. The band sold out venues in Canada, the UK, and Japan, where they were mobbed by screaming fans at the airport. After leaving the band, Lita Ford had a successful solo career, and Mickey Steele joined the Bangles. In 1967, Yvonne Craig appeared on The Merv Griffin Show as Batgirl. Yvonne Craig had a prosperous career as a television actress before passing in 2015. Her two most well-known roles are probably what admirers will remember about her. The legend will endure because devoted fans incessantly watch a show or movie and invite the actors to conventions. In 1967 and 1968, Yvonne Craig made 26 appearances in Batman starring Adam West. She portrayed Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's niece, who would work with Batman as Batgirl to combat crime covertly. Later, she played the green-skinned Marta in Star Trek Episode 69 in 1969. She became a popular favorite, even though that was only one Star Trek episode. She will always be regarded as one of the first cult TV shows because of Batgirl and the Orion female, Marta. Happy Campaign. This happy photo of four was captured as they rested from their campaign in a North Carolina bus on October 26, 1962, 8 days before the election. A man without knowledge of this must think they were on the road going somewhere together. Andre the Giant with his cute dog, 1983. Andre the Giant was a wrestling legend who was 7 feet 4 inches tall and weighed 520 pounds. His nickname came from his condition, giantism, which causes an excess of growth hormone and makes you a real-life giant. Andre used his size to his advantage and towered over his opponents in the ring. However, Andre wasn't as gruesome and scary in real life as in wrestling. Cher shows off her long hair for Vogue, 1969. Cher began her career with her husband Sonny Bono as the pop chart topper Sonny and Cher. In the 1970s, the pair found even more success as a comedic duo with the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. In the 1980s, Cher appeared in movies like Mask, 1985, The Witches of Eastwick, 1987, and M. Early Judas Priest, 1975. If there was ever a band that often found itself at a crossroads, it was Judas Priest. Today, everyone knows this band as an institution that helped shape heavy metal music, but in 1975, it looked like there was very little chance they would succeed. The band released their first studio album, Rock-a-Rolla, in 1974, and it was a colossal failure. Even though there was a positive buzz surrounding the band, the album, Rock-a-Rolla, was simply not selling. The band members even had to get second jobs just to avoid poverty. Their second album, The Sad Wings of Destiny, was released in 1976. While making this album, the group finally found their unique sound, a mixture of hard and progressive rock. To put it in other words, the genre of heavy metal was starting to get defined. It didn't take long for CBS to notice the band and The Sad Wings of Destiny, so making a third studio album with a major label was even more accessible for the band. This album was called Sin After Sin, and after that, Judas Priest practically went into heavy metal history. Marlo Thomas breaks down on That Girl in New York, 1967. The character of Anne-Marie, played by Marlo Thomas, was controversial and groundbreaking when it first premiered. She was a young, single woman in New York who was in a serious relationship but was now engaged. Before that, this was unheard of. That Girl aired for 136 episodes from 1965 to 1971. Sandy Denny and Robert Plant attend the Fairport Convention, 1970. In this picture, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin is seen with one of his closest friends, Sandy Denny, a member of Fairport Convention, a British folk band. Denny's vocals are featured in The Battle of Evermore, which she sang with Plant on the album Led Zeppelin 4. This song became an instant classic, and her contribution too. Captain Kirk and Commander Spock. Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, and William Shatner, who played Kirk on Star Trek, appeared on the cover of a September 8, 1966 TV Guide issue. Science fiction fans became enthralled with the show and noticed tiny but significant details. For example, Kirk's 3 stripes on his sleeve indicate his captainship, while Spock's 2 lines indicate his commandership. Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks on stage, 1981. Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty were close friends, but never dated. Nick idolized Perry and told him she would love to be in The Heartbreakers. The two wrote songs for each other and appeared in each other's live and studio versions. Stop Dragging My Heart Around was a collaboration between the two. Stylish Blues Brothers, 1980. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd played the fictional Blues Brothers, Jake Blues, right, and Elwood Blues, left, who performed on Saturday Night Live and became fan favorites. They loved blues and soul music and took their band seriously, releasing their music independently. The 1988 high school yearbook photo of Tina Fey. Tina Fey was a nerd in her youth. She attended Upper Darby High School in Pennsylvania, where she was a member of the drama club, choir club, tennis team, school newspaper co-editor, and honor student. She showed a great sense of humor since she was raised watching Saturday Night Live and Monty Python. Betty White and Alan Ludden's 1963 Las Vegas wedding. Alan Ludden, the Password host, and Betty White, who has been on TV for ages, seemed like a match made in heaven. Ludden also hosted Liars Club, Stumpers, and Win with the Stars. Betty White began her career in 1952 when she played the lead in Life with Elizabeth. In the early 1960s, she began appearing on game shows and always entertained. In Dr. No, 1962, Sean Connery tries a handstand to please Ursula Andress. Sean Connery was the manliest Scotsman on the big screen in 1960s cinema as James Bond, the first James Bond. He played the famous detective in Dr. No, the first Bond film premiered in 1962. Ursula Andress played H, the Bond girl. A tired Lucille Ball pounding grapes while filming a historic I Love Lucy episode, 1956. Lucille Ball, one of the funniest women on TV back in the day, was photographed while filming Lucy's Italian movie, a memorable episode of I Love Lucy. The villain, Teresa Triel, gets a little carried away during the fight scene, which is unnecessary. Colonel Sanders and Alice Cooper met in Amsterdam, 1974. In this photo, Alice Cooper, the singer of the rock band Aerosmith, and Colonel Harlan Davis Sanders, the founder and face of Kentucky Fried Chicken, met while doing PR for their businesses at the same hotel in Amsterdam. Anne Margaret is almost ready to fly. Anne Margaret was always sexy, whether she was smothering Jack Nicholson with her breasts in Carnal Knowledge in 1972, or writhing and foaming in the silk satin sheets while being sprayed with baked beans in Tommy in 1975. In a 1980 filming clip from Caddyshack, Cindy Morgan. Cindy Morgan started her career in radio while in college and became a weatherwoman after graduation. She caught the American public's attention when appearing in national TV commercials, so most people first knew her as the Irish Spring Girl. She then went on to star in movies like Caddyshack, 1980, where she played Judd. Marilyn Munster star Pat Priest with the Munstermobile. Lily's niece, Marilyn Munster, was pitted against the rest of the family because of her plain looks and lack of grotesqueness. According to their twisted logic, the family considers her a freak. Beverly Owen played Marilyn in the early days, but Pat Priest played her later. Head East, 1974 photo. The band Head East was famous in the 1970s in the South and Midwest with their catchy songs. One of their songs, Never Been Any Reason, is still played on classic rock radio stations. Their first album was Flat A. George Harrison and Bob Marley meet, 1975. George Harrison was a Beatles member, and Bob Marley was a Jamaican recording artist who popularized reggae music in America and elsewhere. They met backstage at the Roxy Theater in Los Angeles before Bob was about to perform. Harrison was a big Bob Marley fan, and Marley had heard of Harrison. Shakespearean actress Helen Mirren, 1967. Dame Helen Mirren is one of today's most famous and respected Shakespearean actresses. She made her mark in the Royal Shakespeare Company. If she wants a role, it's unlikely to be given to someone else, as she's played the sitting Queen of England twice, Queen Charlotte and Elizabeth I. Macho Man, Miss Elizabeth, and Jesse the Body Ventura, 1983. The woman pictured here is Elizabeth Hewlett, Macho Man's mystery WWF manager. Randy and Elizabeth married a year after this picture was taken, but neither is alive today. Burt Reynolds as Louis Medlock in Deliverance, 1972. Burt Reynolds was best known for his roles in comedy films like Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit, but he also appeared in race car and football films. In his first decade in Hollywood, Reynolds was often cast in supporting roles in non-comedies. Performance by Clash frontman Joe Strummer, 1982. In 1982, The Clash broke into pop music with their album Combat Rock, which reached number 7 on the U.S. album chart. Two of their singles, Rock the Casbah, number 6, and Should I Stay or Should I Go, number 13, were hits. However, as usual, the band's decline began. Filming The World of Susie Wong, 1960, with Nancy Kwan. Hollywood was prejudiced against Asian actors and actresses in the 1960s, and Asian men and women could only play supporting roles, no matter how talented they were. Nancy Kwan was the first Asian woman to break into Hollywood, but producers worried that she wouldn't be suited for the leading role or a love interest because male audiences didn't like Asians. Classic 1970s Farrah Fawcett hairstyle. The 1970s were full of beautiful, sexy women who ruled the entertainment industry. Some say the original Wonder Woman, played by Linda Carter, was the sexiest, while others say Raquel or Catherine Bach in her Daisy Dukes was. However, Farrah Fawcett had the most iconic hairstyle. A Little War Escape. It was sad to see people suffering and dying during the Vietnam War in 1967, but the U.S. found a way to help people, especially soldiers, escape the war. Raquel Welch and Bob Hope were able to perform and entertain the soldiers. We can only hope they did their best to lift the spirits of those lone soldiers fighting for their lives. Ellie Mae Clampett and Jane Hathaway compete in The Queen of Beverly Hills, 1964. The Beverly Hillbillies, a 1960s CBS sitcom about a country family making it big and having extra money, had two female supporting characters. Donna Douglas played Ellie Mae Clampett, a tomboyish pinup-style country girl, and Nancy Culp played Miss Jane Hathaway, a bland character. Anne Margaret, goddess-like, 1960s. In the early 1960s, Anne Margaret was a sexy singer who danced almost as well as a rockette. People even called her the female Elvis Presley because her pop hits could make a crowd wild. In 1964, she even filmed Viva Las Vegas with Elvis. Linda Gray on Dallas, 1980s. Dallas is best known for J.R. Ewing's portrayal of an egotistical oil baron who brought viewers back week after week. He made TV dramas famous before they were even a thing. However, J.R. would have been nothing without his wife, Sue Ellen, played by Linda Gray. Sue Ellen drank heavily because of her husband's emotional abuse, infidelity, and disinterest. Because of her hardships, people even referred to Sue Ellen as the original Desperate Housewife from the 1980s, which made the show compelling.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon